Tim at Garden Hands. We've started our boiling. We thought we would just show you how we do it. It's not necessarily the right way. It's on the internet. You got to believe what you believe, but this is how we do it. It seems to work. I don't do this alone. I have a lot of help. We have people that go out and gather that come and like to do it. It's a nice year, so that helps a lot. Yeah.
Live alone.
Yep. I got all, but it does work to have a lot of people. Otherwise, when you're boiling, it'd be tough. You'd have problems. I have problems when I have people here, obviously. So we have a CDL that's 4 foot is what our flue pan is. It's a raised flue pan. So that's 4 feet long, and there's an extra 2 feet or another 2 feet of a syrup pan. We pump our sap up. Our bulk tank is on the outside. It's just an old dairy bulk tank that holds 500 gallons. That's usually enough for us. We'll run it through a small RO and get it concentrated as well as we can. And we have a little electric pump that'll pump it up into this, I call it the head tank, that holds 65 gallons. So we can boil about 20 gallons an hour, so we know once we've filled this up, the last thing of the day, that we've got 3 hours to boil, so you can kind of gauge when you should slow up putting wood in so you don't overdo it, and you've got some left to have as a safety so you don't end up short. And usually we have a pail of either water or permeate or sap.
Safety sap.
Huh?
Safety sap.
Safety sap, there you go. So, comes out of the head tank down through this blue piece of Wurzbo into your float box. This float box flows through the wall of the evaporator via a small stainless tube, and it goes all the way across. So, yep, that's right there. It goes all the way across to the second chamber, which is kind of your first one. So the tube comes across from that side, we've moved over, and it stays in the tube all the way down to this end of it, down towards the center of the arch. Then it exits that tube. So by the time that sap travels down, it's warmed up, and it doesn't have cold sap hitting the side of the bottom of your pan. This is the level of it here. This indicates it's about 3/4 of an inch above the flues that are inside here. So we try to run it fairly tight there, or fairly close. So it comes in, it starts here, so it has to travel down through the center divider, back down to the other end. And then we'll go back to the other side again where the float boxes are.
How many of those, is that what they're called, the flues?
The flues?
Yep. How many are there in there?
I can't see it right now. There's a little bit of foam.
Shut it off?
Yep, just a second. I'll shut the switch off here. I think there's 4 or 5 raised sections on each half of this. No, they're about an inch apart, something like that. So there's a flue that comes up, and then there's an inch, and then the flue is an inch, so it goes back down again as it goes across, 1.5 inches maybe. So it's traveled, it started way at the back corner, goes down through the center divider, back down to this end. It comes out at this point.
Hold up. So as it cooks and it gets thicker or more dense,
Yep,
that's what travels through.
that's what travels.
Okay.
So what is that? It's called gradient. As it's concentrating, it's moving because you've got new stuff coming in over here where it's hot. As you have new stuff moving in, that's moving the rest of the stuff that's been cooked further down. Now, there's more technical terms to this. This is how it works. Don't ask me why. And in the same time, we're drawing off down here. So as you take some out of the very end, it has to get replaced. So that starts this to be a motion. So back to our pan. It starts on this corner, goes down to that corner or that end around, and ends up down here where we take out of our flue pan. So here's another float box here, and in this float box it has a little bit of color to it now. This float box controls the level of our syrup pan, and our syrup pan has a divider in it, so it enters this side right here, goes straight across through a small notch in the divider on the other side. It has to travel across it, and it comes across, and then it enters into the second portion of it via the small notch on that end, and ends up coming across, and this is our outlet. Ours is controlled manually. A large portion of the syrup producers have an automatic draw that's electronic, and you set it to what you want. This works fine for us. Someday maybe we will, but this works for us. This morning I changed this pan out. We have 2 of these. So the other, I burned it last night just a little bit. So
How many times?
3 times. This is a bad night. I don't know why. It's just dumb stuff. Whatever. You got to do that to keep you humble. Yeah, you go from, wow, does this smell good, to, oh shoot, in about 2 seconds. And it is 2 seconds.
So you said when you first started gathering, you were going to sweeten the pan. Which pan do you mean you sweeten? Or both of them?
Well,
And what does that mean?
somebody that's done this longer than I have would be able to give you a better definition on that.
Okay.
When you first start and you let the sap in through your float box, the whole thing is sap.
Right.
Versus right now, this is syrup, real close to syrup again. So you have to run this, and I think that night that we started, or that afternoon we started boiling at like 2 o'clock, wasn't it? Something around 2 o'clock, and it was almost 7 o'clock before we had syrup here. It's a little bit tricky, or maybe I'm not doing it right. If somebody has better ideas, let me know. But what I do is I'll take some out when it gets to maybe that 3 hours, and this is starting to get a little color to it. So I'll take some out of here into a 2-quart saucepan, and then pour it back into this corner of it. So it makes it flow a little bit. Otherwise, it's just sitting there, and when it's ready down at this corner is too, and you have to get a lot through there. Yeah,
And then you're doing it in batches instead of
it,
continuous.
It takes time to get from a batch to where it's a little more continuous.
Okay.
But that's sweetening the pan.
So you don't have to sweeten the pan this morning when you replaced the little one.
Right,
Okay.
right. So I should have said that. We've taken this 4 to 5 gallons off from here. We've ran it through a single filter just to get this whatever's in it out of it, and then we pour that pail back into there when we start. And this valve was closed yet, so it's just this that we're pouring in, and it takes off right away. We don't have any issues with that.
Got it.
Last night when I had issue with it, when I burned it a little bit, the one thing about having a float box right here is when this starts, and you can smell it when it's going to burn, or if you're quick, you can smell, or somebody will. If you hit this quick and just let some sap flood into there, it's maybe not the right way to do it, but if you can get something flooded into there as quick as you can, you may have a burnt spot on your pan, but it doesn't seem heart attack. It doesn't seem to we didn't think it changed the flavor of it. We boiled for another hour about with that, and then I did it again, then we quit. When you do get a little spot, we have a piece of pipe. There's a little piece of you can't see it, it's under the bubbles, but there's a small piece of stainless pipe in here that's about 2 inches in diameter, and we just leave that in there so we have a visual that we can look in there just to see once in a while. Where that lays is usually where you'll get a burn spot because you have some metal contacting the bottom of the pan. It kind of is just what seems to happen, or it's more prone to burning there. Once you get a burn spot, or just a little spot that has a burn, that little spot is generally where if you have trouble, it'll start from that again. So it's easier to take the pan home, clean it up, bring it back, and start over again. In an hour, I can drive home, clean the pan out real well, and be back again. So it's worth having a second pan, but it's worth taking the time to do it. So the first 2 years, we ran the whole season with one pan, and I think we took it off and went home and did it. So now we have one that sits here that's ready to go. So it's a convenience. It's not a need, it's a want. So that's how we do it. We have a steam hood that was just something that someone else had built, and we picked it up for little or nothing. It does help quite a bit to get the steam from just kind of billowing a little bit here to being up at the ceiling. Gets it directed up a little bit. Very seldom do we ever have a steam build up inside the building. So that part's worked well. But it's not anything fancy, but it gets it done, and it's convenient, works nice. It's well made. Plastic forks sit right there. Like that? Nope, don't like that. So thanks again for watching. Hope you give us a like, and if you're not subscribed, click on that subscribe button and follow along with us the rest of the time. We appreciate it. Thanks again. Bye.